Welcome, friends. Today we're going to talk about how to have hard conversations in friendships that actually protect and possibly strengthen the friendship instead of damaging it, and why how you actually approach that conversation is more often more important than the words you use. A lot of times we think, oh, if I bring this up with my friend, is it going to change our relationship? Is it going to ruin our friendship? When in reality, hard conversations don't ruin friendships. Most often, the way you approach them or not approaching them at all could potentially ruin a friendship. And this is important. It's important because sometimes when we have that hesitation about bringing something up to our friend because we don't know how to approach it or we're not sure the words to use, and so we just let it go silent, that is most likely doing more damage to the friendship than just thinking it through and starting and having that conversation. Because that silence might build resentment, especially if it's something that you see in your friend and you really want to talk to them about it, but you don't. And you just continue to let it linger. And that resentment might build up in you. And in the end, if something is bothering you, that's on you to approach that conversation with your friend to stop that resentment from building. It could be just a very simple conversation, and your friend might say, you know what, thanks for sharing that with me. And there, now you've built a little bit more trust, you've shared that bond, and you've protected that friendship as opposed to damaging it while letting something remain silent. So let's talk today about a few strategies and how to approach these hard conversations in friendships. Let's talk about how we approach them with early friendships, because it's going to look different with a 6-month, 1 year, 2 year friendship than it's going to look like with a 5 and 10 year friendship or a 30+ year friendship like my friend and I have. So early on in these friendships, the one thing you want to be honest, right? And it's okay to take time to say to yourself, gosh, how am I going to approach this subject with this person, right? In these early friendships, you're still building trust. You're still building a bond. It might not be a friendship where you talk every day. It might be a friendship where you talk a couple weeks, but you're still friends and you're still good friends. And that friendship still has the potential to be a long-term friendship. And so it's okay to take a little bit of time and think to yourself, how am I going to approach this, right? But approach it with care, approach it with honesty. Don't attack, and make it a two-way conversation, right? Not where you're talking at someone, oh my God, I hate that you did this. That's more of a 30-year friendship, maybe conversation. But for younger ones, right, to build those friendships and protect that relationship, like take some time, think it out. But it really is important for you to approach that in such a way that you're not attacking someone, you're letting them know your real feelings, and that it's a two-way conversation. And a lot of times just doing that instead of pushing it down and keeping it silent, you will find that maybe your reluctance to have that conversation, at the end of it, you are going to feel so much better. The person that you shared that conversation with hopefully was very open to receiving that feedback, understanding it, and you guys were able to talk it out. And, you feel better because you've shared your feelings. There's no guarantee that relationship is not going to change after that conversation, but it is still worth it to have that conversation. And most often that relationship is going to change for the better. It just continues to build that strength, build that bond for the years to come that you're still going to have that friendship with that person. And then sometimes you get into the longer term friendships that are 5 and 10 years. You're probably at this point going to feel a little bit easier having those conversations, right? Those conversations are going to feel easier. You are going to still take care to show your feelings and speak with your friend about it. You're still not going to attack your friend, right? But they're just going to come easier because by this time you've had more of those conversations with your friend and you are both more comfortable with each other. So you know how to approach those conversations and your friend knows how to approach them with you. And it's not as, you don't have to tiptoe around quite as much in later friendships, maybe as you did early on. Right. Again, especially if you're looking at a 5 or 10 year friendship at this point, you guys have probably been through some things together. And so those conversations are going to come easier. But it is still important to have them, right? It's still important to not let certain things just continue to eat at you and build resentment within yourself when, again, just takes that conversation. And at this point, your friend is probably still going to appreciate that. You guys are going to know each other well enough to know that you are providing feedback that you want to grow your friendship, right? Not damage it. So those conversations are probably going to be a little bit easier to have than the ones for your early on friendship, but they're still just as important, right? You don't ever want to be silent, let something eat at you. And hopefully your friends feel the same way, right? Like they come to you with these types of thoughts and they have the hard conversations with you. And having hard conversations with each other is such a bond builder. It just takes you through life. It's nice knowing that you have that person that you can just like feel like, man, I've got to tell you this and, let's talk it out, right? Because I didn't agree with this, or maybe you didn't agree with what I did. And the fact that you can sit down and have those types of conversations just continues to strengthen that bond so that friendship just continues to grow. And then you talk about friendships that are 30 plus years, like my friend and myself. Our conversations probably look quite a bit different at this point because even when you talk about a 5 or 10 year friendship that we just discussed, like I said, at that point, you guys have been through some things together. And when you get to a 20-year or a 30-year friendship, you have been through it. As we have mentioned in previous episodes, we have been through so much together. And our hard conversations right now, we share it like we don't tiptoe around. Let me just put it like that. We do not tiptoe around with each other at all. Like if she's doing something that I don't agree with, if I'm doing something she don't agree with, it's like, okay, that was dumb. Like, why did you even do that? Like, that's how blunt we are with each other at this point. Still in a respectful way, as much as we can be. So, but the other hard conversations that we also have with each other are things that are happening in our lives. Again, in previous episodes, we've talked about some harder things that we're going through right now and that we've gone through in the last number of years together. And those types of conversations are hard to have. And it's not necessarily where you're approaching somebody saying, hey, I didn't agree with this. It's more of a, man, I'm really struggling right now. I'm really struggling and I just need you to listen to me. And that, in my eyes, kind of qualifies as a hard conversation because you're opening yourself up to be vulnerable, right? So hard conversations don't always have to be, hey, I didn't agree with this thing you did, right? But they also can be, I'm really struggling right now and I just need you to listen to me because being vulnerable is hard. So, when we talk about hard conversations, it can run the gamut of a whole different range of topics. But like I said, at 30 years, we are very blunt with each other. We don't beat around the bush. We still do it in a respectful manner. We both trust each other. We respect each other. And we're ride or dies. So ours looks entirely different than, say, a 6-month friendship, a 2-year friendship, and all of the ones we've previously discussed. But just always be mindful of how you approach it. Take the time you need to think about how you're going to approach it because your approaches are going to be different with different friends. If you have totally different relationships with different people, Your friendships are not all the same. So the way you approach one relationship with one friend to have that hard conversation, you might need to pivot your approach for another friend that you're about to have a hard conversation with. And that comes with time. That comes with you getting to know that person and just understanding how they react to different conversations and different feedback. So it's important to have those hard conversations. Take your time in figuring it out if you need to. If you're at a point in your friendships where you don't really need to take a lot of time to figure it out, like we are at this point, like that's okay too. But that all comes in time. And it's worth it. It's worth it to take the time to figure it out. It's worth it to have the hard conversations, because these are bonds that grow over time in friendship, and having those long-term friendships is absolutely worth it. Is there something that you've been holding back? You've been maybe a little hesitant to say to one of your friends because you're just not sure how to approach it? If there is, we would love to hear some of your stories in the comments. Have you ever approached something in a caring, thoughtful way, but maybe that person still didn't appreciate the feedback and it damaged your friendship? I hope that's not the case, but sometimes that's certainly possible. And then you wonder, will you ever get to that place with that friend where you can be that, you guys can share that bond? Maybe that was a friend for a season, right? We've talked about that before as well. Some friends are in your life for seasons and for reasons. But if you have any stories, I would love to hear them in the comments. We would love to talk through this stuff. But it's super important to not push those conversations under the rug. Figure out how to have them in a respectful manner, especially early on. And that just grows your bonds. That grows your bonds with friendships. It doesn't create resentment by not talking about it. And it just makes things stronger. And it's so helpful for you, right? So you're not getting certain feelings, right, that just keep staying within yourself and letting resentment build, and feelings like that build, because that's never healthy for any of us. So share your thoughts, share your stories, drop them in the comments, and we will see you on the next one. Thank you so much. Peace.